Yeah, Tyler. So if I had to choose for cash game between Lowry and Curry on Wednesday, I would probably go Lowry.
I hear that. I mean, I think that Lowry, I mean, you just love that matchup. Pat Beverly's only been playing like 25 minutes a game, so he's going to get a good amount of minutes, probably around 13 to 15 without Beverly on the court. And so, I mean, you're going to see that there's lots of opportunities in a really fast-paced game for Lowry. Next guy up on the board, you got Isaiah Thomas, 8.2K at Brooklyn. Thoughts on Thomas for tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous if this game becomes a blowout too, but but I do like Isaiah in tournaments for Wednesday. He's his price, I'd like to see it around the 7.8K mark. Now that Horford's back, I think that takes away a little bit of his usage. Not too much, but he's only a tournament play for me for Wednesday.
I hear that. Now, next guy up, you got Kemba Walker, 7.8K against the Spurs. The Hornets are at home. Thoughts on Kemba for tomorrow?
I'm pretty sure Kemba was like 8.5K like 2 days ago. He definitely wasn't like at least he was somewhere in the eights.
He was ahead of some of these other guys we just talked about.
Yeah, so he's down to 7.8K now. That is, I don't understand it. He had one bad game, and it was versus Memphis. Otherwise, he's been really consistent. He's been really good this year. I think we've talked about him in the season-long show on Sunday. Me and you, I know I've talked about him on the daily shows a lot. 7.8K, that's insulting to Kemba. I'm insulted for him. Now, not the best matchup in the world versus San Antonio, but if there's one position you can attack, it is the point guard. I mean, Seth Curry, for God's sakes, had a nice night against San Antonio a couple nights ago. So Kemba is, I don't know if I'll use him in cash. I mean, I think you still could, though, even though it's against the Spurs and the pace is going to be slow. But still, a really nice tournament play. He's going to be really, really low owned. You're getting him at a nice bargain now. Like, I don't know why. That price should not be in 7.8K.
I'm totally with you there. I think the price drop definitely puts him a lot more in play. Next guy up, you got Kyrie Irving, 7.6K against the Blazers. You got to love that tasty matchup. Cavs are at home. Thoughts on Kyrie for tomorrow?
Yeah, I just can't. I'm done getting too excited, about Kyrie. He's done nothing this year to make me excited. He makes me want to be very boring and speak in this monotone. 35 FanDuel points. That's what he's going to get, 35. I mean, last game versus Detroit, he went nuts and put up 46 FanDuel points. Basically, every game before that, it's like 35 FanDuel points. So he's fine. Again, I mean, the one thing I'm worried about is Portland on a back-to-back. Does Cleveland blow them out? Vegas thinks so. But Kyrie's safe. He's a safe play. I don't think the ceiling is fantastic, even though he is getting the Dame Jeudy Dench Lillard's horrific defense. But so, I mean, I'll have a little bit of Kyrie on Wednesday, but I'm just not – I can't get too excited for him anymore.
I'm calling it Kyrie's first 50 FanDuel point game tomorrow.
Oh, look at that.
Against Lillard, who can't guard. I don't think he can check me. I mean, let's face it. I'm calling it. Tomorrow's Kyrie's day. Next guy on the board, you got Eric Bledsoe, 7.5K at Orlando. Thoughts on Bledsoe?
Yeah, so he was 6.8K yesterday or 2 days ago. That last game they played. So he jumped up $700 because he had a 150 FanDuel point night against an atrocious Washington team. Last two games that they played against at Washington, at Philly, two horrendous teams, and he's had two decent games. So 7.5K. Now that's getting into a territory tournament only for sure, and that's a pretty risky play in a really slow-paced game versus a team that mucks up Orlando. I'm not a fan of this play. Maybe in a couple tournaments, definitely not cash though for Bledsoe.
I feel you. There's so many options I like better than Bledsoe for tomorrow. Next guy up, Mike Conley, 7.1K at Philly tomorrow. Thoughts on Mike?
He's always super low owned. He does have upside. He's always a game time decision. I don't know what's ever going to happen with his minutes. Even though the minutes have been really good the last two games, 37 and 34. He put up 44 FanDuel points last game too. He's still not a cash game play for me, even though I think he's relatively safe. They should blow out Philly. Even though Philly's coming off consecutive wins, I think for the first time in like 22 years. But you want to throw Conley in some tournaments. Maybe Philly's playing well for them, so maybe they can keep it close. He's going to be so low owned, so for that reason alone, he's a tournament play.
I hear that. Next guy up, you got Jeff Teague, 7K. They're facing the Hawks at home. Teague's been really good with Paul George out. Potential that Miles Turner sits out too. Teague is probably going to play. He's probable for tomorrow. Thoughts on Teague?
Yes, his price has come up from 6.6K to 7K, but rightfully so. As long as Paul George is not playing. If Paul George is playing, I want no part of Jeff Teague. If Paul George is out, Teague's usage has been so high without PG-13 that I will definitely – I think Teague is a pretty safe play. The 7K scares me a little bit, but I'll definitely throw him in some tournaments. He does have he's got 50 FanDuel point upside without Paul George. But he's pretty safe too if Paul George is out.
I hear you there. All dependent on if Paul George plays or not. Next guy on the board, you got a couple injury guys there who I'm not sure if they're going to play. You got Jeremy Lin at 6.3, George Hill at 6.3, Darren Williams at 6.3. Check the statuses. All I'll say about those guys. Next guy we know is going to play on the board, Ricky Rubio, 6.2K at the Pelicans. Thoughts on Rubio?
Yeah, this guy is just what a mess he's been this year. I've tried to roster him a few nights, and it has not worked out for me. He's coming off a 32 FanDuel point night. Unfortunately, I did not play him that night. I played him the two previous games where he put up 15 and 13 FanDuel points. I wish that price was down. Would come down to about 5.6K. At 6.2K, the only thing I love the matchup. The Pelicans can't guard anyone. He's going to get some Tim Frazier defense. Tim Frazier's been playing well offensively. He's not a good defender. So Rubio's fine. He'll be super low owned for a 13-game slate. But I just don't think he has the upside that's going to help you win. Take down a monster GPP on this type of slate. But he's okay. I mean, I could see him being like less than 5% owned.
I totally agree. I mean, there's an opportunity there, but I mean, what's the upside? I mean, he's just not sky high. Next guy, you got Darren Collison, 6.1K. Sacramento's at home against the Thunder. Thoughts on Collison?
Yeah, so Collison, the minutes are now pretty solid. He's in the low 30s. I don't. Is he finally? He's starting now, right?
Last game was the first game.
Yeah. So, in his last game, he put up 32 FanDuel points. He's a sneaky guy. He's another guy that's going to probably be pretty low owned. He gets the delicious, delightful defense, non-existent defense of Russell Westbrook, who's just exerting so much energy offensively. I'm pretty sure Westbrook thinks there's only one half of the court these days. Also, you know what's annoying? And I don't know if this is true or not. Like one of the OKC guys was telling me, I think on Twitter, one of the beat reporters was saying that Westbrook doesn't watch any game film. And I was like really pissed off at that.
Why?
I don't know. Like it shouldn't. Like I thought every player watches film.
But does it matter to Westbrook? He doesn't try on defense, and he just goes out there and free balls it on offense half the time. So
no. The more I thought about it, it makes sense, right? Because yeah, he looks like he's not running plays, and he just does what he wants. But watch some film, dude. Like I don't know. It really upset me to the core.
Just wasting Westbrook's time, man. He just free balls it. He's good.
I think for that reason alone, I'm playing some Darren Collison. I mean, because Westbrook's not watching film. I think Collison, he's a sneaky tournament play. Another guy that will be pretty low owned on this large monster slate. So I'll have a little exposure in tournaments to Collison.
Guy we talked about a little bit before the show's next guy on the board, Emmanuel Mudiay, 6.1K.
Oh, this bum.
Daniel says stay away at all costs, so that's all we'll say about him. Next guy up, Alfred Payton, 5.7K. At home against the Suns. Thoughts on Payton?
Alfred. I mean, this is another guy. He's not a cash game guy. He's boom or bust. He's got 50 FanDuel point upside, but when he kills you, when he sucks, he really sucks. So he's had clinkers of like 8 and 14 and 13 FanDuel points. It's tough to get super excited with any Orlando player, quite honestly. If there is I do love the matchup versus Phoenix. I mean, Orlando's going to be playing way up in pace for them. It's basically a matchup of one of the slowest paced teams versus one of the fastest. So maybe in tournaments I'll have a little exposure to Alfred. It's just really hard to roster those Orlando guys.
I've always wondered about Alfred when they measure him, do they measure the hair or do they not measure the hair? Because that's got to be a good 3 inches, right?
At least I'd say 5.
I always wonder that. I think he might be way shorter than what they list him at. Next guy on the board, Dennis Schroeder, 5.5K at Indiana. Thoughts on Schroeder for tomorrow?
I mean, that whole Hawks team, they should be ashamed of themselves. They should not be allowed. They should have to sleep on the plane tonight or on a bus. They should not be allowed to sleep in a hotel room. We mentioned them getting destroyed by the Pelicans by 30. So I think they should be rested and motivated because didn't play a lot of minutes and didn't play at all, quite honestly, on Tuesday. Schroeder, he's another guy, not consistent. He was benched 2 games ago and put up 5 FanDuel points against the Knicks. He's the thing, he's the only Hawk that did play well on Tuesday. He still actually hit value and had 29 FanDuel points. So he's, you want a little exposure to him. The price is very reasonable at 5.5K. I think we were all just expecting more from him this year, so he's been disappointing. But if you want to use him in some tournaments, it's fine.
I think there's the potential too that kind of turns into a really ugly game with Indiana playing half their team and Atlanta being on the second of a back-to-back. So it's not a game I'm definitely tuning into tomorrow on a 13-game slate.
I wonder if Atlanta misses Jeff Teague.
I mean, everyone at the beginning of the season was like, "Oh, Schroeder's a better player. They did good."
Even last year, all of last year, everyone's like, "Oh, I wish they'd get rid of Teague so Schroeder could get more minutes."
Yeah, I think Teague's a much better player personally, but that's my own personal opinion.
No, I agree with you.
Next guy on the board, you got your boy Tim Frazier, 5.4K against Minnesota. Thoughts on Frazier for tomorrow?
Man, he's been so good. I mean, I think solely because of on the back-to-back, coming off the 53 FanDuel point night on Tuesday, recency bias, he's going to be higher owned than he probably should be. Although let me put a quick caveat. This is for the entire slate on Wednesday. When you have a 13-game slate, you don't have to worry too much about ownership. Obviously in cash games, ownership you really don't ever have to worry about for the most part. But even in GPPs, when there's typically an 11-game slate is when I stop worrying about ownership for the most part. I'll still want to consider it, and I still want to have 1 or 2 guys who I think are going to be less than 5% owned, but I don't worry about it as much. With that said, I think Frazier's going to be more owned just due to recency bias. But 5.4K, very reasonable. Ricky Rubio defense. I know whenever I make fun of Ricky Rubio, I get yelled at by all of our listeners, Tyler. So I'm not going to make a comment. But I think Frazier's fine. I do not expect another 50 FanDuel point explosion. Remember, he got a lot of that when Anthony Davis was out of the game on Tuesday. So I don't think he's going to score 21 actual points again on Wednesday. But he's fine. But I probably will try to fade him a decent amount on Wednesday.
I hear you. So we're going under 5K now. Anybody you want to mention here if you're trying to save a little money at point guard?
Sergio Rodriguez, if you want a pretty safe guy in cash games, he's been pretty safe for Philly. I used him a couple games ago when he had 34 FanDuel points. So not a terrible play there. Tony Parker, 4.6K, not horrible. Tyler Johnson, sneaky play at 4.5K. Other than that, probably that's. I mean, on a 13-game slate, I'm not going to force it with anyone worse than that.
You're not even thinking about Jamal Murray, 28 and 34 points in his last 2?
I mean, the only problem is they're playing at Utah. I avoid Utah like the plague on a small slate. So on a 13-game slate, in a really slow-paced game at Utah, and even tonight, on Tuesday when Jamal Murray went nuts, he only played 22 minutes. So, while Jamal, I guess if there is a guy in a GPP you can throw Jamal Murray in there, but I'm probably not going to do it on a 13-game slate.
All right, on to the shooting guards. Top play on the board, you got James Harden, 11.6K against the Raptors. Thoughts on Harden for tomorrow?
Yeah, I did not like Harden last game because he was up against the defensive KCP, and he still put up 50 FanDuel points, and he really struggled. But he's such a safe play. So I love this game versus Toronto. He's fine. I mean, what are you gonna say? I mean, Westbrook and Harden. I mean, they're always fantastic plays. I guess this is a more If I had to choose between Westbrook and Harden tomorrow, I would go Harden. So I think that's a decision that we're all going to have to make.
I'm with you there, just because the Westbrook on the second of a back-to-back. They're playing the Kings, which I never know what Kings are going to show up, so I'm going Harden there too. Next guy on the board, DeMar DeRozan. Still can't believe it, but he's 9.4K. Same game. Thoughts on DeRozan?
Yeah, so the one-trick pony, man, is his price. It should be coming. It should slowly start to tinker down and get back to about 8.8K. It has not. So at this 9.4K price tag, it's just way too hard for that to pay off. I mean, he's got to give you basically what 40. God, I'm bad with math. 45 FanDuel points. Is that right?
Yep.
No, more than that. That's if he was 9K. So he's got to give you like 47, 48 FanDuel points. He's only done that
47.
Yeah, so he's only done that, 3 times this year, and the last time he did that was November 12th. It's just, I do like the matchup versus Houston. I do love the tempo. He's going to be low owned. No one's going to want to play DeRozan on Wednesday because of that price. So for that very reason alone, if you want to throw him as a dart in tournaments, I'm fine with it, but I can't play him in cash at that price.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it with the first thing you said. I mean, because he's so scoring dependent, it's like he's getting to the point now where he has to score like 40 actual points to get you that value, and that's just not going to happen that often.
Yep.
Next guy on the board, CJ McCollum, 7.5K at Cleveland. Thoughts on McCollum?
Yeah, I don't really want McCollum coming on a back-to-back. Tough matchup versus the Cavs. He's basically, he's a weaker version of DeMar DeRozan, another one-trick pony. Although I will say this, I mentioned on I think it was last night's show, he has been getting assists. He got 5 again on Tuesday. That's 3 straight games of 5 assists. So he's facilitating the offense more. They're playing him a little bit more without Lillard, so he gets to run the offense. So for that reason, it makes McCollum maybe I will use him a little bit in tournaments, but I don't want a whole lot of him on Wednesday.
I hear that. Next guy on the board, you got Avery Bradley, 6.7K, and Nick Batum, 6.4K. Daniel's not recommending either one of these two guys for tomorrow. So we're down to Devin Booker, 6.1K, order Orlando. Thoughts on Booker?
Yeah, Booker's always going to be a GPP play. I'm always going to have at least one lineup where I throw Booker in there, just because he's a gunner. He's another one of these one-trick ponies, but his price is a little bit lower. He's still very, very capable of putting up as many actual points as DeRozan and McCollum. He's gonna get as many shots. I mean, it's just you watch a Phoenix game. He's like their number one option. He gets the ball and shoots. He doesn't look to pass. He's just a gunner. It's kind of annoying, quite honestly, especially if you're playing other Phoenix guys. The guy had a lot of Brandon Knight and Alex Len a couple nights ago. But so for that reason alone, I'll play Booker in tournaments. I don't like him in cash at Orlando in a slow, nasty game. But for tournaments, he's okay.
I'm telling Booker you were hating on him. I love to watch Devin Booker play.
Well, I just don't like him because if I have other Phoenix guys, that's why.
All right, next guy on the board, you got Klay Thompson, 6K against the Lakers. Golden State's at home. Thoughts on Thompson for tomorrow?
Yeah, Klay Brick Thompson. His price finally reached the 6K mark. Congratulations, Klay. He was stuck in the 5s for like the last month. So again, I think they're going to blow out the Lakers. Even though he's been playing a lot better lately, he's become like a one-trick pony. He's so scoring dependent now. It's insane if you look at his game log. Like the last 2 games, Tyler, he's put up 25 and 29 actual FanDuel or actual points, but he only has 28 and 32 FanDuel points. So that means he's like, no, thank you. Like I'm not even though. So let's say Klay explodes for 40 actual points, it's probably going to be like 43 FanDuel points. So he's not the same guy as last year. Just he's not, even though he's getting the same amount of shots, like the peripheral stats are way down. You want to use him in tournaments, you can, but I don't love this play on Wednesday.
Well, and I think it's worth mentioning too that daily fantasy takes away a lot of Klay's values, because a lot of Klay's value is in season-long leagues is from the good percentages that he shoots. I mean, he always shoots a good percentage from the field, relatively speaking, for a guard. He always shoots a good percentage from the line. He always shoots a good three-point percentage. And daily fantasy doesn't take any of that into consideration. So, I mean, he's always a worse daily play than he is for season-long leagues.
Yep.
Next guy on the board, you got Victor Oladipo, 5.9K. Thoughts on Oladipo?
Yeah, Depot's he's becoming more consistent. The one thing I love about him is the minutes. He's locked in the high 30s minutes every night. Just plug it in. In the last 4 games, his floor has been 28 FanDuel points. So he's still not cash game worthy yet. But if his price doesn't go up, he will be in a week from now or so. You're getting him at a bargain. I mean, the thing is, I think his price is going to go up. You're still getting him at a bargain. So for that reason alone, I like him in tournaments. He's a guy with 50 FanDuel point upside. Remember, they are coming on a back-to-back, so I'll have a little bit of exposure to Oladipo. And he's always under-owned.
And you love the matchup. I mean, they're going to start Lawson and Collison in the backcourt, so one of them is going to be guarding Westbrook, one of them is going to be guarding Oladipo. I don't think either one of them is a good defender, so, I mean, you like that for both guys there tomorrow?
Yeah, and I'll say, and it's weird because the last few years, Sacramento has always, and this was because of Ben McLemore mostly, and the pace that they played with, they always gave up the most points to opposing shooting guards. This year, I did not think that was going to be the case because they play so slow, and also now they have Aaron. Wait, who's the starting shooting guard? Aaron Follow?
Last game they benched Aflalo and they started Lawson and Collison.
Right, but before that, it was a Follow, right?
Yes.
Right, so Follow is supposed to be this great defender, but they're still like top 5 in the league in giving up fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. So
Aflalo has looked bad all year.
Yeah.
Man.
So and the fact that you're right. So if they start Lawson and Collison, dear God, Oladipo could annihilate those guys. So he's a very sneaky tournament play for Wednesday.
I'm liking it myself. Next guy on the board, you got Zach LaVine, 5.8K at New Orleans. Thoughts on LaVine?
He's another guy it's hard to get excited about because he's become super scoring dependent, and he's had some duds lately. The ceiling hasn't been there. I mean, he had one game of 48 FanDuel points, but that was back, I think, it was November 9th. So it was the day after the world ended. But, I don't love this play. It's just he's getting big minutes and still barely hitting value. Last 4 games, 23, 30, 17, and 24 FanDuel points. So, like the problem with Minnesota, there's only one ball. Rubio, he has the ball in his hands hell of a lot. Then you got Wiggins, who just, dear God, talk about a gunner who will just not stop shooting and will never pass. Then you got Gordy Dang, who actually is a pretty good player, and you got Towns, who needs the ball. So, yeah, I like attacking the Pelicans. He's a sneaky tournament play, but it's not great upside.
What is he doing in this FanDuel picture?
What do you mean?
Like, he's, like, not smiling. He's got his mouth, like, half open, but he's not smiling, and he just looks, like, super weird in that picture, man. I don't know what he's doing.
He looks stoned.
He probably is. Next guy, you got Rodney Hood.
He looks like he's in the middle of talking almost. It's like mid-sentence. He's about to say something.
Or he's, like, getting ready to kiss the cameraman. I'm not sure. Like, something weird's going on there.
Yeah.
Let me know, FanDuel. Let me know. 5.6K, Rodney Hood, next play on the board. At home against Denver. Thoughts on Hood?
Yeah, I mean, my motto in life, it's attack Denver shooting guards. Attack point guards, too. Attack Moody as well. But Rodney Hood, 5.6K. Like this matchup, Favors is out for Utah. He hasn't been as consistent as I would hope for. So for that reason, maybe I don't want to play him in cash on a Wednesday. But tournaments, I'm gonna have me some Hood. He could explode.
Worth mentioning, they played Denver in the last game. This is like one of those home and homes, and he played 31 minutes. He had got you 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover, 20 FanDuel points.
So not great, but he'll be low owned, I think, and he's got upside.
And that's one reason I like to pull the thermal out my GPPs is the upside is there. Yep. Next guy on the board, you got Monte Ellis, 5.5K against the Hawks. Thoughts on Ellis?
Monte Ellis is Benjamin Button. If you watch him play, he's now become – I have a list of players I will never play on back-to-backs. Monte Ellis is on that list. If you watched him play the last time Indiana had a back-to-back, his body looked like it was going to collapse. I was screaming to get an ambulance out there, Tyler. I was so nervous. It was very scary. And he put up 7 FanDuel points. So, luckily, this is not a back-to-back. If Paul George is out, if Miles Turner's out, if CJ Miles is out, I'll have a little exposure to Ellis in tournaments, but he's not safe for cash, even with all those guys out.
Well, and what's crazy too is like you think to yourself like, oh, well, he should be getting a lot of the offense, and like, I mean, just nothing he's done this year has shown you like, I mean, he had one almost 40 FanDuel point game against Philly, and then he had that 40-point game, the very first game when they played in overtime against Dallas. But other than that, man, he's just been bad this year.
Really bad.
And so it's just a hard guy to trust for me.
Yep.
Next guy on the board, you got Evan Fournier, 5.3K against the Suns. Thoughts on Fournier?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to have a little exposure to him on Wednesday in tournaments. And he's actually normally for cash games, he's almost in play too. He gets so many minutes for Orlando. He's locked into in the mid 30s in minutes. His prices come all the way down to 5.3K. You're starting to get him at a bargain. Even though the production, he's been consistently mediocre in terms of his production, but he's flashed. He does have upside. If he gets hot, he could have put up a 40, 45 FanDuel point night. He did it a lot last year. It's there. Orlando just as a team is struggling. So he's a guy that I will have some exposure to, and really, playing way up in tempo against Phoenix. He's a sneaky another guy. All the Orlando guys are sneaky. No one wants to play him, so they're all sneaky tournament plays, and they're all cheap.
Well, and I mean, I don't think that any of those Phoenix guards are good defenders, and one of them, either Booker, Knight, Bledsoe, one of them's going to be on him pretty much the whole game. And so, I mean, I think there's a shot to be a real sneaky guy there, and maybe he produces some good value.
Yep.
Next guy, Eric Gordon, 5.2K. They're facing the Raptors. Thoughts on Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say about him. Eric Gordon is a typical. I mean, he's a prototypical boomer bust guy. I mean, look at his last two games: 6 and 40 FanDuel points. So you want to use him in tournaments? I'm fine with it. Don't even think about touching him for cash games. If you're playing him, you play him in tournament and hope he gets hot and hope he gets gets extra minutes and goes off. But not a guy I love for Wednesday. Maybe if I'm playing 20 lineups, I put him in 2.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Next guy, you got Dion Waiters, 5.2K at the Pistons. Thoughts on Waiters?
Yeah, I don't like this game. This game is going to have an ugly over-under. The over-under is not listed yet, but it's going to be nasty. Two teams that play pretty slow. Waiters has been good. If Winslow's out, so he's been getting mid-30s minutes, and he's putting up mid-30 FanDuel points. So he's been shockingly consistent, 32, 33, 37 FanDuel points the last 3. And 4 of the last 5 games, he's been over 30 FanDuel points. So, wow. I mean, maybe I'll throw him in a couple tournaments. 5.2K price came up a little bit, but his usage is super high. He's getting the minutes, so not a horrible play, but he is going to get the defense of KCP. KCP is a really good defender. So I mean, I don't love Waiters, but maybe you want to throw him in a couple tournaments. I'm fine with it.
And I'll mention this too. FanDuel is strangely listing him as questionable. I have not seen that anywhere else. So
but he was questionable for the last game, so that makes sense that he's still questionable.
But I mean, that maybe drives the ownership down even a little bit more, and maybe like no one will be on this guy, especially in a big slate. So
yeah, I was praying he didn't play last game because I wanted all the Josh Richardson I could handle. And then last second they said DM was playing, and he played well. He was the only Miami Heat guy that played well besides Whiteside.
I hear that. Next guy, Lou Williams, 5.1K at Golden State. Thoughts on Lou?
I mean, Lou is not, he's not his own keeper. He is at the helm, at the wits. What's the right phrase? His fate is beholden to one Luke Walton. Will Luke play him minutes or not? I mean, I thought he was going to get a ton of minutes on Tuesday without D'Angelo Russell. He only got 23. He put up 22 FanDuel points. The one thing about Lou, when he gets minutes, he's been super consistent this year. So 5.1K, I think he is a guy with big upside against Golden State. If they can somehow keep that game close, it's probably because guys like Lou Williams are hitting shots. So he's another guy, a sneaky play in tournaments. Russell is going to be out again. Maybe he gets a few more minutes on Wednesday. They're going to need his scoring. So a nice tournament play on Wednesday.
For what it's worth, he played 26 minutes when they played Golden State earlier this season. He scored 20 actual points, and he gave you 34.4 FanDuel points. So He's done it against them before.
He's also sneaky handsome. He's very handsome. He is.
No comment on that. Next guy on the board, you got Will Barton, 5.1K at Utah. Thoughts on Barton?
Barton looked for Denver looked horrible on Tuesday night against the Bulls. He is starting now though. Played 26 minutes, and he's a guy that's flashed upside in recent years, or I should say last year. I don't know if he played before that, but so last year I would use him in tournaments, and he made me some money a couple nights. He's a tournament play. I don't love it, but 5.1K. I forgot they're playing at Utah, so maybe as a dart in tournaments, but don't love the play.
Well, and he recently came back from that injury, second of a back-to-back for them, so he's going to be a little risky. They might limit the minutes even more. They might sit him out completely. I don't really know what's going on with that, but he's definitely a risky option with some upside. All right, you're going bottom of the barrel here, less than 5K. Anybody you want to play here, shooting guard?
How dare you, bottom of the barrel? Like a lot of the guys that I'm going to play are going to be under 5K bunch. I think shooting guard is going to be a spot where I try to save me some money.
Oh, there's a lot of great plays down here.
Yeah, it's like Jordan Clarkson. I played him a ton on Tuesday. I will play him a lot on Wednesday as well. 4.9K. I think I was telling everyone on the show yesterday, he's approached Brandon Knight territory. So Brandon Knight's price has basically dropped to the same area. These are guys that have 50 FanDuel point potential. Now they're in different situations this year. It's not going to be consistent, but they still have it, and occasionally it's going to hit. And especially when you have injuries and so you got 26 minutes. You got 26 minutes on Tuesday night. Hopefully he gets a little bit more on Wednesday, but he put up 35 FanDuel points. That's 7 times value. That's how you win GPPs. So I love me some Jordan Clarkson again on Wednesday.
I'm with you there. I think the upside is just too great.
Yeah. Other than that, KCP, he's a guy, dude. No one plays KCP. His price never goes up. It's 4.8K. He put up 30 FanDuel points again against Houston on I think it was on Monday. Dude, he has 30, 35 FanDuel point potential. He can get you 6, 7 times value. He'll be low owned. I like KCP. Seth Curry, 4.7K. The Clippers, you can take advantage of them at shooting guard. I guess Wes Matthews would be the actual shooting guard. But still, Seth Curry put up 29 FanDuel points last game against San Antonio. If Chris Paul's going to be on him, that scares me a little bit. But 4.7K, he's locked into a lot of minutes, a lot of shots, especially if D. Will's out. So I like him. I like J.J. Redick. I don't mind Wes Matthews at 4.7K. And look at this, Tyler. Look at this. Brandon Knight. He was 4.8K. He dropped. He's now starting, and his price dropped all the way down to 4.5K just because he had a couple bad games.
He had 11.7 FanDuel points in that game he started. So, can you blame FanDuel?
I can, and I will. Look, you're right. Last game he had 12 FanDuel points against Washington. I watched it. He just didn't make his shots. He was getting wide open looks, and then he just. There's some games where he's just not going to touch the ball a lot because Booker doesn't ever pass. He's a ball hog, and Bledsoe was having a terrific game too. But you're giving me a guy with 50 FanDuel point upside at 4.5K. That's ludicrous. That's a guy that's screaming at me to play him. Now, I probably won't play him in cash games because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out he's a little risky right now. But the upside is there. God, give me him in tournaments on Wednesday. Other than that, the last guy I'll mention, Josh Richardson. Look, I loved this play a couple nights ago. It did not work out for me. But, hey, I don't regret it. I actually went back and watched this game. He was like 1 for 11 from the floor, got wide open shots. He just played bad. It was then I was reading some articles in the Miami Herald, and he just played his worst game of the year, and that's just going to happen occasionally. But I still think he's safe. He's starting 4.3K. That's way too cheap for him. I like that play as well.
Cheers to Swaggy P on that game winner tonight. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, that was impressive.
All right, ready to move on to small forwards?
God, I need a drink. Tyler, so many guys are talking about.
So many games, man. This whole NBA stacking the games because no Thursday is not
Oh,
helping us.
oh, wait till we get to Friday. Jesus. All
Every
right.
team, man, every player. All right, top small forward on the board, 9.9K. Kevin Durant against the Lakers. Thoughts on Durant?
Yeah, I don't. I'm a little nervous here because I think they're going to beat the Lakers by about 100 points. So tournament only for me on Wednesday.
Had 41.5 in the first game against the Lakers. Probably pretty safe for 40 points for you, which isn't value, but it is 40 points. Next guy, LeBron James, 9.8K against the Blazers. Thoughts on James?
Wow, I mean, on paper, I love this matchup. LeBron's coming off his worst game of the year, 29 FanDuel points last game. 9.8. I mean, it's LeBron. He's. I'm not gonna count the last game. Although he's basically a lock for 50 FanDuel points. The problem is the ceiling hasn't been the same this year. He hasn't hit 60, but he's fine. He's always good. He's always a good play.
Paul George is 8.6K. He's questionable. We already talked about him a little bit. Next guy on the board, 8.5K. You got Kawhi Leonard at Charlotte. Thoughts on Kawhi?
Yeah, Kawhi had a little stretch where he dipped, and he had a couple games in the 20s. Last two though, he's been back in the 40s. He's a sneaky guy. He's been his ownership has been really low lately. People have kind of forgotten him, and everyone's just playing LeBron and Durant, probably rightfully so. But a sneaky play versus Charlotte in a slow-paced game. I don't mind him if you want to throw him in some tournaments on Wednesday.
I hear you. Next guy on the board, you got Rudy Gay, 7.2K against Oklahoma City. Thoughts on Gay?
One trick pony. If you want to use him, don't use him in cash. He's look at his last four games: 44 FanDuel points, 17, 19, 50. That's all you need to know. When he's hot, he can be good. He's got some upside, but when he sucks, he sucks. I do like the pace of this game. They're playing at against OKC. I think is who's like second in the league in pace, or at least top five. So
they were fourth. I just looked it up.
Okay, so they're fourth. Yeah, so that's it's an intriguing spot. He's going to be low owned. People don't like to play Rudy Gay for some reason. So tournaments on Wednesday, he's fine.
Next guy on the board, you got Gordon Hayward, 7.1K. They're at home against Denver. Thoughts on Hayward?
Wow, he's sucked lately.
Second that.
The only good thing, well, a couple good things. One, his price has come down. I mean, he was approaching like 8K. Now it's 7.1K. This is probably the cheapest he's going to be all year. Getting a nice matchup, getting some Gallinari defense. Gallinari cannot move. He's so unathletic. So this is an interesting spot for Gordon Hayward. Man, I kind of like this play on Wednesday. I mean, I'm going to have some tournament exposure to Hayward for sure.
I can see that. I mean, I think he's going to be good and low owned, which, I mean, you always like that. Next guy on the board, Andrew Wiggins, 6.7K at the Pelicans. Thoughts on Wiggins?
One trick pony. I hate watching him play. He's another guy, boom or bust. Don't play him in cash. He's very similar to Rudy Gay. Let me just look at his game log. 18, 10, 52, 36, 56. So when he's hot, it's nice. You make money, and when he's cold, you lose money. So a risky play. A nice matchup versus the Pelicans. The pace should be delicious in that game. So you want to throw him in some GPPs. I'm fine with it.
Next guy, you got Danilo Gallinari, 6K at Utah. Daniel talked about him a little bit already. No dice there.
No.
Then you got Harry B, 6K. Harrison Barnes against the Clippers. Thoughts on Barnes?
Yeah, I mean Barnes. I'm using. I'm still using him every night in a couple of lineups just because look, Dallas needs someone to score and they have no one. He's 42 minutes last game, 39 before that. He's locked into huge minutes, huge shots, huge usage rate. He's flashed 50 FanDuel point upside. Granted, it's been a while, but he's so. I don't mind Harrison Barnes if you want to throw him in some tournaments. He's actually pretty safe for cash, quite honestly, too.
I hear that. Next guy, you got Wilson Chandler at 5.9K. Another no for Daniel. Then you got TJ Warren, who's out. Jay Crowder, who's another no for Daniel, 5.4K. Next guy.
First of all, hold on. So if you're going to go down that route and say no for Daniel, like Tyler. I'm speaking to listeners here. Tyler has told me before we started the show I must give him a list of players that we cannot talk about. So, at first glance, those are some of the players. When he's saying Dan doesn't like those guys, those are the guys I told Tyler, all right, let's just not talk about those guys. Because they're not, on paper, they're not great plays. However, you still can have some exposure to Wilson Chandler because he's been playing great. I just don't love the matchup at Utah at a back-to-back.
Well, you can have some exposure to anyone. I mean, even a blind squirrel finds them nut every once in a while, right? I mean, anyone can get lucky and win.
I hope they do not. I mean, I don't know. I feel sad for blind squirrels.
All right, next guy. Let's get to this. This was a good one, and only because it's a position change. You got Marcus Smart, a small forward now, 5.2K at Brooklyn. Thoughts on Smart and thoughts on the position change?
Yeah, the position change is weird. I mean, I know technically, I guess he was kind of starting for Jay Crowder.
But that's what I mean. Is it only because Crowder's out? Like now that if Crowder comes back, is he going to really place any small forward? Like maybe a little.
Yeah, it's weird. Either way though, I don't want me some Marcus Smart. So no.
All right, next guy, Trevor Ariza, 5.2K against Toronto. Thoughts on Ariza?
Yeah, I had a ton of Ariza a couple nights ago. He was super low owned. He's pretty steady, man. He's a nice cash game player. He's nothing sexy about him. His upside's not what it used to be, but he's locked into tons of minutes and he gets so many wide open 3-pointers. So a nice matchup here against Toronto. I don't mind Ariza.
He's one of Mark Roberts' favorite players. That's all I'll say. Two guys, 5.1K. You got Marcus Morris against the Heat and MKG against San Antonio. Thoughts on these two?
Yeah, I mean these are just two ugly, nasty games. I think you could do better on a 13-game slate.
All right, so if you're looking to save a little bit at small forward, under 5K, who are you going for?
I mean, do I dare go back to the well with the bum Bazemore? He's not going to give me 2 FanDuel points again, right? 4.9K. I mean,
he could give you 5.
Just because I'm angry and I'm stubborn, I'll probably put him in one GBP. God, look how far Aaron Gordon's fallen. 4.7K. It's so sad. But still, you probably can't play him just because the minutes are not there anymore.
Frank Vogel's killing that, man.
What a disaster. I will play my mandatory 1 Rob Covington lineup, Lord Covington, 4.3K. Evan Turner, 4.1K. I'll probably play him in one lineup in tournaments. Ronnie Hollis Jefferson, I'll probably use him in tournaments, one lineup. And keep your eye on Matt Barnes. I think he's going to start again for Sacramento, right? He's played over 30 minutes the last 2 games. I know the last game was a clinker, whatever the right phrase is, but he played 36 minutes.
He played 32, or he's projected to play around 32 minutes now in this new starting lineup. According to Jaeger, he's going to try to play all those starters right around 30 to 32
Yeah,
minutes.
man, so he's in play for me then at 4K. He can get 30, 35 FanDuel points pretty easy if he's going to get that type of minutes. So I don't mind him. And then obviously if Paul George is out, Glenn Robinson the third, man. He's a very, very nice punt.
One guy I'll mention is Mo Harkless, 4.5K. You don't love the matchup necessarily tomorrow at Cleveland, but I wrote an article last week where I kind of uncovered that if you look at his numbers, like per 36 wise, he's actually well underperforming in a lot of statistical categories to his career numbers. And so I think he's got a chance for a little bit of growth and could be even a little bit better than he's been so far the early season, which has been relatively good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I call him Sleepy Mo. Everyone always sleeps on him, and he's not fancy, but like he's super consistent. I mean, look at his game logs: 26, 13, 17, 25, 24, 28, 21. It's just for 4.5K, that's not bad.
I'm with you. Ready to move on to the power forwards?
Yes, dear God. Woo.
Your boy, the Tin Man, top play on the board, 11.6K. We mentioned him already a little bit. Anything else you want to say about Davis?
I hate you, Anthony Davis. No,
until he wins you money, and then you love him again.
Yeah, as long as he's playing, I mean, he's going to be a really nice tournament play for Wednesday because everyone's going to be so furious at him. What he did to us on Tuesday.
I'm with you there. Next guy on the board, Blake Griffin, 9.5K at Dallas. Thoughts on Griffin?
Yeah, so Blake was 8.8K, and now he's 9.5K. So, it makes sense. Clippers had some close games. Blake got more minutes. Blake's fantasy points went up. Blake's price went up. He's basically been at 50 FanDuel points the last 3 games. He's been over 45 the last 4 games. He's safe. The only problem here is they're playing the worst team in the league, and that's Dallas. So blowout potential here makes him only a tournament play for me on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm circling that one as a blowout in my scorebook. Draymond Green's the next play, 8K against the Lakers. Thoughts on Draymond?
Yeah, another guy who tournament only play for me just because I'm scared about the blowout potential. Also, last 4 games, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Last 4 games, he's been under 40 FanDuel points, and that's when he needs to get value. He's the thing about him. The one thing that makes me the most concerned is that he was an excellent tournament play last year. And this year, the upside, he's still been really consistent, but he's basically giving you between like 30 and 40 FanDuel points every night. He hasn't cracked 50 FanDuel points. He's not the same upside. So it's hard to get super excited for him in a game where I think they're going to be like a 15-point favorite. But tournaments, go ahead.
He owns Julius Randle, I will say that. In the games that I can remember from last year, it just seemed like he takes Julius Randle to school every time they play against each other. So
is Draymond Green is he chunky and fat? I can't figure it out because like he always flexes his muscles, and I just want to like shout at him, "Stop flexing, you fatty!" He seems to me like he's out of shape.
He a little bit maybe. I mean, not like super out of shape or anything, but I could see that.
But I mean, he clearly must be. In great shape and everything. But he doesn't look that way to me anyway.
Maybe he has a weird body type.
Yeah, maybe.
Next guy, Paul Millsap, 7.8K at Indiana. Thoughts on Paul?
Paul's too many times this year he's fallen into the dream killer category. He was probably my favorite cash game player last year. This year he's moved into a more of a tournament only play, and that price is probably going to keep dropping because he's been inconsistent. He's been subpar. But when he puts it all together, he still has nice upside. Coming off Atlanta's had they played so bad on Tuesday. You got to think they're motivated on Wednesday. So I'll use him a little bit in tournaments.
Next guy up, 7.8K. Your boy Kevin Love. You love you some Love usually against Portland tomorrow. Thoughts on Love?
This is my new favorite cash game play at power forward. Consistency monster. I put him in at cash games. It's just it's a very reasonable price. He gives me production. I don't have to worry about it. It's just another just very safe play. His upside's not the same when it used to be either, but just rock solid. I love him for cash games.
I'm with you there. Next guy, you got drop the price, LaMarcus Aldridge. I'm refusing to talk about this guy until they drop the price. 6.9K. I'm not talking about him. Dirk's questionable tomorrow, 6.5K. Yeah, check it out. I mean, I'm probably staying away. Even if he plays, he's probably going to get some low minutes. Next guy is Julius Randle, 6.5K at Golden State. Thoughts on Randle?
Don't even dare think about playing him in cash. I mean, too many people keep playing him in tournaments, quite honestly. I don't understand why. I mean, I know he's flashed, the upside a few games this year, but when you're telling me that Luke Walton is going to basically giving him a maximum of 30 minutes and maybe like 20 minutes, it's very tough to get excited about a guy who's 6.5K. And his usage rate's not like it's Joel Embiid's usage rate. So, I mean, Randall, if you want to throw him as a dart in some tournaments, I'm okay with it. But that price, it's too expensive, and he's not getting enough minutes.
He did have 20 and 14 in the last game against Golden State for 38.8 FanDuel points. I will mention that, but I'm not loving the play tomorrow, just not getting the minutes. Next guy is Kenneth Faried, 6K at Utah.
Stay away from Faried.
All right, what about Ibaka, 6K against the Suns?
Another Benjamin Button. Ibaka has been very sneaky the last couple games. No one's played him. He's been like at 2-3%. He put up 39 FanDuel points and 31 the last 2 games. He's finally coming. He's like the one Orlando guy that's finally coming around. His price. He's the only Orlando guy that's price actually is rising. Everyone else's price is going in the opposite direction. A nice matchup against Phoenix. Is fat, juicy Jared Dudley going to be guarding him? Is Benjamin Button, Serge Ibaka's brother, or Benjamin Button brother? It's very hard to say. Benjamin Button brother, PJ Tucker going to be guarding him. So Ibaka's an interesting play that I'll probably use in some tournaments.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm not loving the play tomorrow, but I mean, I think with some low ownership, you might be able to get a little bit of a steal there. Gorgie Dang, 5.7K at New Orleans. Thoughts on Dang for tomorrow?
Yeah, Dane, he had a couple, 3-4 game stretch where he was kind of subpar, and he's come back to life the last 4 games or so. He's been pretty consistent. 38 FanDuel points last game, 20 points, 10 rebounds, and the best part was 40 minutes. So we love to see Thibodeau playing those starters big minutes. So Dang is allegedly going to be matched up against Anthony Davis if Anthony Davis plays, but Anthony Davis is not a great on-ball defender, so that doesn't worry me too much. So Dang is, he's okay. I think he got better options on Wednesday, but he's okay.
Thad Young's next guy up 5.7K against the Hawks. Thoughts on Young?
If all those Indy guys are out, George, Turner, and Miles, make sure you throw Young in at least one tournament. He's got 40 FanDuel point upside, but I don't love this play against Atlanta.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely staying away unless, like you said, George and Turner are sitting out, and then he might be a decent little upside shot. Next guy, Tobias Harris, 5.5K against the Heat. Thoughts on Harris?
Harris was my sneaky ninja. I've been pretty hot on my sneaky ninjas, but Harris was the one sneaky ninja for a couple days ago that I totally missed on against Houston. I loved the matchup. I loved the game. I loved the price, and dude put up 11 FanDuel points. So
well, if he could have not fouled, he might have been all right, but he had to.
Right. So he's another guy. You look at him and you're like, that price is just too low for his talent. So I'll be using him in some tournaments. He's a guy who has 40 FanDuel point upside. I don't love the pace here against Miami. I think it's going to be a slow game. But I think for that reason, the ownership will be low. I will use him in some tournaments.
And I think he's going to get a good matchup regardless of who Miami decides to play as a power forward.
Miami has no one at that position. James Johnson. I mean, Luke Babbitt. I mean, God only knows they're going to play.
So in my tournaments, I'm actually going to be taking quite a few flyers on Tobias Harris and praying that he can have a good game for himself. Zach Randolph, 5.4K at Philly. Thoughts on Randolph?
No, thank you. I mean, if you play him, just play him in cash because the upside's not there. I mean, he's not going to get you. He's got a floor of like 22 FanDuel points and a ceiling of like 28 FanDuel points.
I'm going to cut this one off at 5.2K and let you mention anyone you want below that because I'm thinking you're not loving these other 5K options.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cantor is always a play that you should throw in like one, even if it's like a $1 GPP, throw him in a GPP.
If they would just give that guy minutes, oh my God.
I know me and Kyle talked about that for like an hour last night.
I love the mustache too.
Ryan Anderson, man, his price has skyrocketed down to 4.7K. Dude, he's still getting like at least 30 minutes a night and getting a ton of open shots. He's just missing shots. If he makes shots, he can get you 35, 40 FanDuel points. 4.7K, wow, that's really cheap for him. I will be using him in tournaments on Wednesday, that's for sure. John Lewis
matchup too.
Yeah, John Lewis been a safe play this year for 4.5K. Jokic, 4.5K. Even only, dude, he's only playing like 20, 24 minutes now. Less than that. He played 18 minutes tonight on Tuesday and had 26 FanDuel points. So I think he's probably worth a dart. Frank Kaminsky, if he plays, 4.3K. God, there's so many guys, Tyler. Dario Saric and Ilyasova, both those guys get minutes for Philly. Juicy Dudley, 3.9K. Julius Randle was like questionable on Tuesday. If he's out, and even if he's not, Larry Nance Jr., 3.9K. He put up 22 FanDuel points on Tuesday and had 34 in the last game, so he's fine too. I mean, there's so many guys. God.
Ed Davis started a couple games there, 3.8K. I mean, he finally got the big minutes tonight against New York. He hadn't really been getting the minutes, but I mean, 29 FanDuel points tonight. So, I mean, there's just a million names here.
I mean, I can tell you this. So, like, just briefly going through this stuff. Point guard looks to be like a position you want to spend up. And God, I mean, you can shooting guard, you can save. There's so much value at shooting guard, small forward, and power forward. I mean, wow. So it's just you're gonna have to choose your stars, but you easily have enough. There's an easy enough value to fit as many stars as you want.
Oh yeah, one last guy that I think we should mention, power forward, 3.6K, Kevin Seraphin. He had 25 FanDuel points in the last game when Miles Turner and Paul George were sitting out. So if they're both out again, another guy maybe you could take a flyer on, such that you wanted to. Anybody else you want?
Dude, God, I named like 70 players. Let's move on. Oh.
All right, top center on the board, DeMarcus Cousins, an even 10K against the Thunder. Tomorrow, thoughts on Cousins?
Yeah, his price has come up to 10K now. On a 13-game slate, he's tournament play only for me. I mean, he's been 35 FanDuel points. Last game he's been somewhat inconsistent, so he's had some duds this year. Makes him tournament play only for me. I don't see him being very highly owned on this slate.
I write this column on the Kings. I predict their box score every game that they play, and I uncovered this great juiciness about DeMarcus Cousins. He's played 20 career games against the Oklahoma City Thunder. He averages 10.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 1.9 steals, 1.1 blocks, but only 18.6 points, and he shoots 37.7% from the field and 69% from the free throw line in his career against the Thunder. I checked last year's numbers. They're just as bad, and actually he didn't even really get the steals and the blocks last year against the Thunder. This just always seems to be a team he struggles against. So with all the other great options where you can spend up, I'm avoiding Cousins tomorrow quite a bit.
And Steven Adams, I mean, he's a really good defender. He stinks offensively this year, but he's a good defender.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that's why. I think that Adams is just really limiting him and really affecting his shots, and so I'm kind of off Cousins for tomorrow. Jesus. Next guy, you got Hassan Whiteside, 9.2K at Detroit. Thoughts on Whiteside?
So Whiteside's at Detroit, so it's a Whiteside Drummond matchup. I think these guys played this year. I'm quickly trying to see what happened when they played this year, if they did. No, I guess they haven't played this year yet. Look, Whiteside's been fantastic. His price keeps going up, but rightfully so. I just, I don't know if I want to spend up at center, but you can attack Drummond. I don't see him stopping Whiteside. He's fine. I'll use Whiteside in a couple tournaments.
Well, and maybe this is something to think about too, of not going crazy on Whiteside or Drummond. They're both getting a lot of possessions, and so they could be attacking each other. One of them could get in foul trouble and kind of limit the upside there. So I'm definitely not throwing either guy in like a ton of tournaments just because I think that there's some potential for that to happen. What are your thoughts on Drummond tomorrow? You put 1K for him. Obviously, matching up against Whiteside.
I mean, man, I've played so much Drummond this year, and he's been like he might be especially at center, he's been the guy who's let me down the most. His minutes aren't that great. I want him to play like mid-30s, and there's some games he's in like the 20s. I know he had some injury issues. He hasn't looked right this year. And that's one of the reasons why I've been playing him more in tournaments, because I know he does have the upside, and I'm keep waiting for it to hit. It just hasn't really hit yet this year. He really, he's had some clunkers. He struggled to get you 40 FanDuel points, which is what he needs to hit value. So, against Whiteside, I don't love this play. Although I will every day I will play him in at least one tournament because he does have upside. I just waiting for him to show it this year.
Oh yeah, I mean he's got the potential for that 20-20 game or that 25-25 game, and so I mean it's always juicy for a tournament.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean it would not surprise me at all if I bet you there's like a 75% chance of one of these guys gets in foul trouble. I mean it's a given. I mean especially if you think about it, Whiteside's Miami's best offensive player. So if there's one guy who's going to get in foul trouble, it would probably be Drummond. Although Whiteside makes stupid fouls too, so. Both these guys could end up playing 15 minutes. They both could fall out.
I'm with you there. Carl Anthony Towns, 8.7K at New Orleans. Thoughts on Towns for tomorrow?
Yeah, so if I had to choose between Whiteside, Towns, Drummond, I go Towns especially in a GPP and in cash games, quite honestly, between those three. He's against Boston, although everyone destroys the Boston Bigs. 27 points, 18 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 56 FanDuel points. Really nice matchup versus the Pelicans. He's a really good play on Wednesday.
Yeah, I feel you. Of all the high price centers there, that's my man right there. Next guy, Dwight Howard, 8.1K at Indiana. Thoughts on Howard?
Man, I'm yawning. It's so late, Tyler.
I thought you were yawning at Dwight Howard's suckiness.
Yeah, I'm not playing Dwight in a back-to-back.
Second that. Next guy, Brook Lopez, 7.3K against the Boston big men.
Yeah, I mean, one of my rules is attack the Denver shooting guard and attack both Denver guard positions. I also attack Boston bigs. The one difference is Al Horford's back now, so I don't like to attack them as much when they had just Kelly Olynyk and Jerebko. But Lopez, he's a sneaky play. He's still barely struggling to get 30 minutes, but his usage is through the roof. Brooklyn needs him to score, so I'll have a little exposure in tournaments to him on Wednesday.
Same game, you got Al Horford, 7.2K. Thoughts on Horford?
Yeah, Horford will be a sneaky play on Wednesday. His first 2 games back, he's been phenomenal. He's at 48 FanDuel points and 43, so he's crushed value. So for that reason alone, I'll probably throw him in some tournaments. I'm just worried this game's going to be a blowout.
I hear that. Next guy, Marc Gasol, 6.8K at Philly. Thoughts on Gasol?
Wow, I loaded me up on Gasol against Charlotte 2 nights ago because 6.8K is just too cheap for him. He's a 7.5K player. So you're getting him at a bargain price right now, and he put up 39 FanDuel points for me. He performed really well. The problem with him is his ceiling. He doesn't have like a 50 FanDuel point ceiling. His ceiling is more about 40, but that's still pretty good. Is it good enough on a 13 slate? I don't know. Also, it's at Philly, so matchup against Embiid. That's going to be a fun match to watch. Embiid against someone as wily as Marc Gasol. And as very intriguing to see how Joel Embiid does against the Memphis defense. But so Gasol's an interesting play. Maybe I'll throw him in a couple tournaments and see. I mean, I love the price. That's the main thing I love about him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Next guy, Rudy Gobert, 6.7K against Denver. Thoughts on Gobert?
No, thank you. As much as I love attacking the Denver bigs, with Gobert, I just don't see the upside. I just can't do it on a 13-game slate.
How about DeAndre Jordan, 6.6K at Dallas?
No.
6.3K against the Suns.
Vucevic?
Yep.
Another no. These are 2 guys that they need. Before I can play either of those 2 bums, they need to show me something. First of all, DeAndre Jordan, just against Dallas, that game. I mean, I think Bogut's going to be out. I don't think DeAndre Jordan's going to play a ton of minutes. And Vucevic, his price has come down so much too. But it's same thing with him. He's not getting the same amount of minutes. He's in the last 1, 2, 3, 4. The last 6 games, he's only cracked 30 FanDuel points once. Maybe I'll throw Vucevic in like 1 GPP because he does have upside, and I do love the game. I love the pace against Phoenix, but I'm not high on that play.
I'll tell you some crazy things about Vucevic that I found. He's shooting 41% from the field and an atrocious 48.1% from the free throw line. He's a career 50.7 and 72.1% shooter from each spot, respectively. So you got to think he's going to get better at some point at scoring the ball. But it has been atrocious to start the season. And that Orlando offense is a little disjointed. And so I could see him maybe shooting kind of a career worst, but I don't think 41 and 48 are going to stick. So no place to go but up.
Yeah.
Next guy up, you got Jonas Valanciunas, 6.2K at Houston. Thoughts on Valanciunas?
I like Valanciunas. He's a pretty safe. I mean, I think he's got a floor of around 25 FanDuel points, and he's got a ceiling of like 45 FanDuel points. So he's a guy with some upside. He's always overlooked, always underowned. The question for me is, what are his minutes going to be in this fast-paced game? I mean, I'd like to think, as long as Houston's playing Capella, Dwayne Casey's going to let Valanciunas play some big minutes, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Casey pulls him and puts like Patrick Patterson at the 5. So the minutes worry me in this game. So I'm not going to play a ton of him on Wednesday, but I'll have a couple lineups for sure.
You want to give yourself a headache, try to guess how many minutes Casey's going to give Jonas Valanciunas. That's the easiest way to do it. Miles Turner's next guy on the board, 6.2K. He might play, he might not. It's totally up in the air right now. So he could also have limited minutes. So kind of anywhere that could go. Next guy on the board, Pau Gasol, 6.1K at Charlotte. Thoughts on Pau?
Yeah, not really. Because I mean, if LaMarcus was going to be out, then maybe I'd give Gasol a look. But if everyone is playing for the Spurs, I'm probably not going to play Gasol. Although he's been relatively safe. The ceiling is not great, but a relatively safe floor. I don't hate the play on Wednesday, but I think you can do better.
Are you trusting the process on Wednesday?
Not at 5.8K. He's been. I don't know if he's even had a bad game, Joel Embiid, this year. I mean, just every game. He's amazing, and he's been like hitting value every game too. But now his price, this is as high as his price has been. He's basically got to get 30 FanDuel points now, and he's up against Marc Gasol in Memphis. This is a tough matchup for him, maybe the toughest matchup in the league. So, look, I say this every show. I say it to myself when I'm at work, when I'm at home, when I'm watching the games. Look, at some point, if you have a 24-minute restriction, your ceiling has to be limited. It's just he can't keep hitting value. So I keep fading him. It's hurt me this year, but I'm going to fade him on Wednesday, and I just don't like anything about this game for him.
I'll agree with everything you said, and I'll say tune into this game for 2 minutes and watch him because I'm
still gonna watch it.
Amazing to watch.
He's shooting threes. I think he's shooting like 50% from 3-point range. He said 10 threes.
My favorite is every time he makes a three, he talks trash to the other guys and like puts the fingers up and just that's what I mean. He's just a great character to watch. Next guy, Clint Capella, 5.7K against Toronto. Thoughts on Capella?
Yeah, Capella's been very intriguing. His price has risen about $900 in the last week. He's been really good the last 5 games. He's been basically over 30 FanDuel points, and the last 6 he's been pretty close to 30 FanDuel points. The best part is the last 2 games he's been over 30 minutes. He got 35 minutes at Detroit. So he's it looks like Mark D'Antoni. Is it Mike D'Antoni? Man, it is so late.
It is Mike.
Listeners, it's like 3:30 in the morning, so cut me some slack. Mike D'Antoni. Yeah, I don't know why I said. What did I say? Mark?
You said Mark D'Antoni.
I don't know why I said that. Yeah, Mike D'Antoni. Jesus. So clearly, though, D'Antoni is taking a liking to him. Valanciunas is a good defender, so that I don't like that aspect of it. But everything else makes him a sneaky tournament play for me on Wednesday. I don't like the price though. That's getting up to a range where I'm going to start fading him.
Second that. Next guy, Mason Plumlee, 5.3K at Cleveland. Thoughts on Plumlee?
I mean, the Plum Dog is just super consistent, and it's like no one's noticing. No one's paying attention. I mean, look, I'm gonna ripple off these box scores. This is FanDuel points: 24, 27, 36, 25, 25, 27, 33. I mean, you can't be more consistent than that. It is a back-to-back. That worries me a little bit. Cleveland's a big favorite, but look, I still think he's a fine play on Wednesday. I mean, I don't love it, but he's fine.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Anybody else you want to talk about? We're getting down in the range where you're just saving some money at this point.
Oh, God, I'm losing my voice too. Alex Len, so his price has come up $400. Now it's 5.2K. At Orlando, Tyson Chandler's still out, so Len's starting. Len, he's a guy has 40 FanDuel point upside. The minutes are still always a concern, even if he's starting. But I like him for tournaments on Wednesday. Steven Adams, this guy, I don't know why he sucks offensively this year. I will say this: he's coming off a really good game on Tuesday night, put up 33 FanDuel points. So that's 6 times value. His price has dropped all the way to 4.9K. So if you want to throw him in some tournaments, you can. He's also pretty safe for cash at that price. Okafor. Okafor's 4.4K. I think he's going to play on Wednesday. Even with Embiid at 4.4K, if you want to use him in a tournament or two, I'm fine with it. And I think that's it, man. Oh, last guy. Big, juicy, another original Waffle House member, Tyler. Al Jefferson. Look, if Miles Turner's out, I like Big Al on Wednesday as a punt. If you want to punt at center, 3.8K. He didn't play a ton of minutes last game, but that was because they played Golden State. Against Dwight Howard in Atlanta, he's going to play 24 minutes. And at that, he can get you 24 FanDuel points, which is 6 times value. So he's a nice punt if he does start on Wednesday.
One guy I'll mention, Spencer Hawes, 3.9K. Frank Kaminsky's questionable. Cody Zeller's questionable. I saw on Twitter earlier that Cody Zeller's probably going to be out. He's more doubtful than questionable. In the last game, Hawes got 37 minutes and gave you 30 FanDuel points. If you're looking for a punt, that's definitely an option there if those two are out.
Oh, man. Is that it? Are we done?
That's it. That's all I got.
Oh, all right. So, unfortunately, I think we did well. It was way over an hour. So I think we failed at our mission to get an hour. But, hopefully, that helps you out for Wednesday's slate. It is a monster. I know a couple of you guys on Twitter asked me my strategy when you have large slates like this. What I tend to do on large slates like this are I play more lineups. There's because there's so many guys to play. Look, if you're playing tournaments, you're trying to find the right combo. With so many guys, I mean, the more lineups, the more entries you're playing, the better your odds are. In terms of cash games, someone asked me, do I like to use kind of one lineup or do I like to use several when it's a big slate like this? I usually use one kind of cash game lineup with this caveat. Let's say I have a lineup, Tyler, and then at shooting guard, I'm torn between, Evan Fournier and Rodney Hood. Well, they're, a $300 difference in price. Let's say I can fit them both in. What I'll do in my cash games maybe is I'll have 60% of the lineups I'd play, Hood, and 40% I'd play Fournier. I would do something like that just to cover my bases if I'm really torn on two players. But otherwise, I still like to have only one cash game lineup.
I'm with you there. I do that a lot.
Yeah. And with that, man, that is the show. I'm going to go to sleep. Tyler, I don't know what Tyler's going to do. Tyler's got to post this, so he's got to do extra work for us. Remember to join the chambers. If you have any feedback, let us know. Rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We'd really appreciate it. Other than that, just enjoy the games, man. It's going to be a fun couple days of basketball, or at least Wednesday, and then you can enjoy football on Thursday, and you can get back to basketball on Friday. And we'll be back to do a show, I think, for Friday's games. I mean, God only knows how long that show is going to be, but we're going to do our best.
We might have to release it tomorrow night just to give them time to listen.
Yeah, we could do a two-parter. Release point guards and shooting guards one night and the rest of the positions other nights.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right, guys.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, have a good one, guys. Later.